this has been a weird topic all season. Like, is he not? So basically, we're hearing that Lauri, who's been rumored all season to be like a guy that people are interested in, is officially untouchable, which like he should have been untouchable to begin with. I don't know why this was ever a deal that like I felt like he was just with how much parity it is today. He's like the perfect guy to you know, build around if you're the Jazz, because you just need someone to partner with them. But what we're hearing specifically right now from the Athletic is league sources indicate that Jordan Clarkson, Kelly Olynyk are garnering the most interest, but Lauri Markkanen, who's coveted around the league from the Jazz perspective, is as untouchable as a player can get. So I mean, take that how you want it, but yeah. So I expect him to stick around for a while, and for them to just continue to build around him and try to get like a second legit like all NBA player next to him and go from there, because it seems like nowadays in the NBA you're trying to have like a two-headed monster. So for me, yeah, I completely get the angle that they're going from. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts. So the Pacers supposedly called up the Jazz and were like, hey, what would it take to trade Lauri Markkanen? And that was before they did the Pascal Siakam deal. And the Jazz showed no interest in trading Markkanen. Zach Lowe of ESPN says Markkanen has emerged as an all-star, borderline all-NBA player in the league. Basically the closest thing to Dirk Nowitzki we've had since Dirk Nowitzki. And by all accounts, any team would have to grossly overpay to consider taking him off of the Utah Jazz's roster. Now, he signed through the 24 to 25 season, and he's expressed returning and remaining long-term with the Jazz, and he is rumored to be signing a renegotiation and contract extension, kind of similar to what like Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner did last year. So imagine that. I'm very excited to see that. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. This is the rest of what we heard. So the Jazz are allegedly continuing to build around Mr. Yes, the man, the pretty boy himself, Lauri Markkanen. As Wojnarowski says, Markkanen is more than likely going to get a contract renegotiated and extended by Utah, as he's their new face of the franchise. It makes sense. And with Lauri, what you have right there is a guy who, especially with what they talked about earlier today, how the parity across the league, you're not going to have these three-headed teams anymore. You're going to have two-headed teams, and Lauri's good enough to be a two-headed monster. And at this point, what you have with Lauri is a guy who can average 30 points a game, a guy who's going to be on contract for the foreseeable future. He's 7 foot tall. He can shoot threes at a high clip or get to the rim in just 2 steps. He has the ability to shoot from 3, but has taken that step to be an all-star, all-NBA player. He's basically the more athletic modern day Dirk. The confidence is through the roof. His consistency has fallen, and he's buried early criticism of rebounding and defending and become better on those things. And he can play the 5 effectively in spurts, but he's best paired with a rim protector like Walker Kessler. And he's going to finish his career as a multi-time all-star, maybe an all-NBA player. So it makes sense that you want to build through this guy, because all you need to put is defense around him. Mark Stein of the Stein Line confirmed what we knew. The Utah Jazz are looking to trade John Collins. Yes, so sadly, John Collins didn't work out this season. And, that was for, one could say, a multitude of reasons. I just think he just wasn't a fit, and they were hoping that he would. But the cool thing about John Collins this year is he's playing 28 minutes a night, which is actually the lowest amount of minutes he's played since his rookie season. And he's putting up 13.7 points, 8 rebounds. He's having one of the best rebounding years of his career, as well as shooting the 3-point shot incredibly well. He's right now shooting 47.6% from the field, which is the 60th best in the league, while he is also shooting from 3. Also, right now, he is a guy who's letting it loose at 37% with 4 attempts a night, which is a career high on how many 3-pointers he's shooting. And at this point, what are you getting with John Collins? If people are asking, like, what does John Collins give you at this point in his career? I'm a big fan of John Collins. He is this guy who is freakishly athletic for his size. He's 6'11" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's a freakish athletic guy who can play power forward or center. He can finish through his opponents, get above the rim. He also possesses great skill level. Like, he has the perfect style of play when he tries to be a great fit at the power forward position for today's modern NBA. He can space the floor with his three-point shot. He can attack the rim and draw a foul. His defensively, he should be a really good player, but his defensive impact isn't anywhere near where it should be. His effort on the defensive end wanes. He just doesn't move his feet well on defense. Sometimes he can show bad body language and not show good effort when the team isn't doing well. But for me, I mean, I've always been a John Collins fan. I've always been team Johnny Boy. But I don't know. I'm a real understander that John Collins and his contract aren't easy to move. So here, I've said this before. Rashawn Holmes, Maxi Kleba, and a second-round pick for John Collins to the Dallas Mavericks. That's really not that bad of a move. Now, another team is, I think, the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers, though, if they were to do a deal like that, I think the thing that will hold them back is financially. I don't know if they have the filler to take on that deal. Let me just look at it. So they're $36 million under the tax. So my understanding is they could probably just eat the money. So I take that back. So if the Utah Jazz were, so let's send John Collins over. That's $25 million the Pacers would be taking. And the Pacers would look at this and be like, okay, let's get rid of a contract we don't want. And what is a contract that they don't want? I think Jordan Nwora would be someone they would move. And I know he's hurt, but I feel like he's the next guy that they would move is Jalen Smith. And they would give up at most a second-round pick. I can't see them giving up anything more than... So right here, okay. So the Pacers, if they did Jordan Nwora, Jalen Smith, and a second-round pick, problem is Pacers would have to cut more money. And they would have to give up like TJ McConnell, and I don't know if that's even worth it at that point. Like, the only other way I see, that's the problem, is like they legitimately would have to give up TJ McConnell, and I just don't see that being worth it if you have to give up TJ McConnell. So monetarily wise, for this deal to work, it would have to be Jordan Nwora, Jalen Smith, TJ McConnell, and can it just be Jordan Nwora and TJ McConnell? Does that get the deal done? No. You'd have to keep Jalen Smith in the deal. So obviously at that point, if you're the Pacers, for example, who we know in the past they've had interest in a deal like this, I'm just very much surprised by what it is. So this would have to be a 3-player deal, and then you would have to hope that someone who's like not making any money, like a Luka Šamanić, could just be a trade filler. So the easiest way for a team like the Pacers to do this deal, John Collins and Luka Šamanić for TJ McConnell, Jalen Smith, and Jordan Nwora, and I just don't think it's worth it in my opinion. But John Collins, real quick, I just wanted to say I just think it's an interesting situation due to the fact that John Collins was a reclamation project, and I knew that it was a big one. And what we talked about earlier was the Utah Jazz are open to trading John Collins, sources told Andy Larson of the Salt Lake Tribune. The quote is, the 26-year-old big man has had the lowest on-court, off-court splits of any rotational player on the Utah Jazz. The team has been frustrated with his slow uptakes on learning the Jazz system on both ends of the floor, according to Larson. He's missed his third straight game. He is averaging 14.5 points and 8.6 rebounds. He is shooting 38% from three, 48% from the field. He's like, look, it's just frustrating because he's providing some floor spacing and some defending, but it's just like, besides the solid shooting and rebounding, there isn't there. His iffy performance plus the $77 million he's owed over the next 3 years is going to make it difficult for anyone who's going to want to take the 7-year bet. But I just find it weird that he's a guy who, and I know what you think of John Collins, but worth 3 years removed from him being a 17 points per game scorer, or like really 2 years removed from him being 16, 17 points. 4 years removed in the 2019-20 season where he averaged 21.6, 10 rebounds, like almost 2 blocks, and was like a borderline all-star. So my thought is, what's going on? Like you said, is like the year before he was still a 19 and a half point per game scorer. The year after that, they added Danilo Gallinari and Bogdan, and he was still an 18 points per game guy. It's just, I mean, one person brought this up in my comment section that he hasn't been. I think in 2020 was the year he got caught with PEDs, like taking PEDs, and everything's been down. And I don't know how much correlation. I just looked at John Collins, like, you know, I'm a fanboy of John Collins, and I always thought he was a guy who was just, after, you know, him having his fall from grace, I was like, he's just a coach away. He's a coach away from figuring it out. And this is because, like, he has the freak athleticism you want from a guy who can play the 4 or the 5. He can finish through opponents and above the rim. He's got great skill. He's like the perfect style of play for a power forward in today's game. He can space the floor from 3, attack the rim. And defensively, yeah, his impact is nowhere near where it should be, but the effort on that end isn't there. But if it was, like, he could be good at defense, but it just shows bad body language and doesn't give the best effort. So I think the whole thing to wrap it up is, like, I don't even know. Like, if they're going to trade John Collins, I think they just give him a 2nd-round pick and say, good luck. Good luck. Thanks for taking him off our hands. It didn't work for us, so hope you enjoy him. Cheers. I don't know. It's not a good situation, in my opinion, and I feel bad for the guy, and I feel bad.